embarrass us, any chance they get. So I will cut it off there. I'm not going to go more than 60 seconds.
Thank you, Ricardo, for sharing an article on what a parabola is. I'm sure next time I get on the phone with anybody on this call, I'll make sure to share. Tanya, were you going to say something about parabolas? Oh, no? Okay. I was going to pick on you with your dead dog behind you again this morning, but.
Yeah, he's kind of in the pillows somewhere. I don't know. He's there.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's get on with our first session, shall we? Share.
I have no idea what he may or may not come back with.
All right. So now we're about to move into state of the industry. So Reid and I will spend, I guess the session is about an hour, but the first few minutes of this are going to be more of like a general data about the industry. Then we're going to move into some industry experts that we had, and then we'll finish up with some marketing stuff, and then a small breakout group. Yeah. Well, shall we get to it?
Let's do it.
All right. So first, we're going to start with broad strokes. So first off, we wanted to pull some occupancy numbers. So this is coming from ALN, who we've done a lot of work with in the past. You'll see that it's really interesting, but June through August, occupancy is up just slightly across the country. It's up 0.3%. And then if you look at absorbed units through the year, January through August, you'll see kind of what I think many people have been speaking about, but Class A and Class B properties are suffering quite a bit year over year when it comes to absorption, whereas Class B and Class C are, just having a much better year than they did last year. Also interesting, I know the Minneapolis folks had asked me a question. In fact, I think Tanya, you sent me an email about this, but about people moving back home. So I was able to pull some data and found that between just March and April, 2.7 million people moved back in with their parents. So that's a record number, at least from all the data I have over the last 10 years. But 2.7 million people went back to live with their parents just when COVID hit. I don't know how that's been impacted since, but I'm going to keep digging. Then let's look at rent collection. So you guys have probably talked a lot about this internally, but this is at a national level. And this data is through September 20th. So you'll see rent collection is not nearly as scary as I was actually expecting it to be. You'll see June numbers were equal year over year. But then obviously in September, we're down slightly, 1.7% so far. But of course, this data was only through the 20th. So, with the last 10 days of the month, I imagine this would get a little bit closer to last year's number. But August was down 2%, which is, not great, but still better than what I was expecting. In particular, when I was looking at how late people were paying, you'll see that it has slowed down a bit. That last year we had a lot more people paying by the 6th, but it's not nearly as bad as sort of, at least personally, I was anticipating with a lot of the funding, going away.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into this, obviously, and you have to put this into perspective too, like what a point actually means, because that can be super significant when you're talking about the entire industry. So I think there's still some concerns here from what I've heard in talking to our clients. It's the major metros, especially in, I heard from Chaston about Seattle, and I think Tanya and David did talk about, and several of our folks in Minneapolis, just how downtown St. Paul and some of those are really struggling. But then you also have the federal, subsidization that is helping support subsidization. Is that a word?
It sounded smart.
Okay, good. Well, but the unemployment benefits have helped maintain, but now that those have expired and we're trying to figure that out, we'll see what the next 6 months looks like. But so just wanted to add that comment.
So building on that a little bit, we wanted to also look at new construction. So this is from Yardi Matrix, and I think this is no surprise to a lot of people. We had a really big last few years. When we had pulled this data at the end of 2019, it actually was saying that 2019 was going to be higher than 2018, but it looks like since a year ago when we looked at this, things ended up slowing down a little bit at the end of 2019, where 2018 was actually the peak. And then you'll see 2020, this is updated numbers from, I think it's June, but even though construction has slowed because it's hard to get enough crews out there to do the work that you need, it still looks like it's going to be a pretty big year. Effectively, besides 2017 through 19, it's the biggest year kind of over the last 10 years. So I know a lot of people are still concerned with new construction. This would, I guess, just to me still showed how strong the market was, but obviously you can't just like stop construction on projects you've been working on for 2 or 3 years. So they've still got to get out the door. You're not just going to toss them.
Yeah, I mean, what I have heard also conversations is just that deals have stalled, but that they do expect them to pick back up. And we heard that a lot from Ryan Cohen when we had him on our podcast. He's a broker. And he just said, things definitely lagged there between March and really, I want to say June, but he said that the deal volume had picked back up. A lot of that is oriented around new development that he works with. So good sign there.
And maybe the final thing here is, as Reid was saying, there was going to be a lot of new construction, like along the coasts. Particularly New York City was going to be pretty big this year, but New York City has stalled quite a bit more than other markets. And currently, I'll say the strongest market for new construction is actually the DFW metro area. And if you do it by state, then it's actually the state of Texas as a whole. So Austin was still pretty strong here, but that'll move us into our next slide, which is concessions. So we've had a lot of conversations with people about their concessions over time, particularly through the COVID period. But these numbers are a little startling to me, actually. So since February, the number of properties that are offering concessions has about doubled. So it used to be 16% of listings had concessions, and obviously a lot of those concessions were Class A or lease-up properties, but now that's moved to 30%. This is actually up 18% year over year. So at this time last year, only 12% of listings had concessions, and now we're at that 30% mark. Then you'll see when you're actually looking at the type of concessions, the most common one is rent concessions. And if you take the median, it's actually 6 weeks free. So the average property is offering 6 weeks free of concessions. And so it's interesting because they have not dropped, overall properties have not dropped the rent rate. In fact, rent rate is up 1.3% year over year. But if you count concessions, where properties are actually discounting their rent by about between 11 and 12% because they're giving away 6 weeks free, which they weren't giving last year. And then we pulled out some of the most interesting markets, but Charlotte was impacted quite a bit. It nearly doubled from 29% to 53%. And this is year over year. Then Austin tripled. So Austin went from only 15% of listings to 47% of listings having concessions, which is, that's alarming. And then Washington, D.C. more than doubled, going from 27 to 57. So if I looked at the top 20 markets, about 3/4 of those that were impacted the most were actually somewhere in the Southeast region, that sort of Mid-Atlantic region. And then, you have some Austin areas, but it seems like it's more the Mid-Atlantic that's been hit the hardest.
Yeah, I think from a marketing perspective, obviously this is I don't want to say a new challenge, but it's not like you guys haven't faced this and aware of this before, meaning market starts to really push concessions, but it does seem to be more global, if you will, like across the industry. And so I think what you have to be prepared for, and you'll see a lot of this like in your Google Analytics, is how many people are just looky-loos, that are shopping the property versus those that are more intentional or intend to convert. And it's not to say that, when you do look at your traffic that there's not good opportunities there, but this clearly is a renter's market, you could say, instead of a buyer's market, meaning that they know now that there's a lot of great deals out there. And so they're going to shop more than they ever have, which means you really got to pay attention to your competition. So the competitive monitoring is really important so that you have a good sense of what those buildings across the street are offering.
And it can be certainly a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like in particular, there's a few folks in this call that have properties in pretty close proximity to one another. And so if you have a lot of tight-knit properties, you can almost help dictate how many concessions you are or not giving away, right? By if your 5 properties in a zip code start upping their concessions, and everyone else is going to up their concessions to compete with you. So this is just something to consider, and I'm sure you all have your own strategies. All right, so now we're going to move into industry experts. You folks are welcome, again, to drop any questions that you might have in the chat, and we'll collect those. And if there's other data points that you guys feel that you want to get more information on, just send them our way. And if we can get you an answer today, we will. If not, then we'll we'll follow up with you after the fact. Let me just pull up a couple of the videos. We pre-recorded these so that they didn't, just so we didn't fumble with scheduling.
Yeah, while David does that, these are going to live on our YouTube channel. We were kind of going for like a 2-minute drill. I guess with the NFL being back, that would be fun to get various experts, different fields from across the country, just talking about their business. And not surprisingly, especially at least with me, these went past 2 minutes. So we're going to just share excerpts with you guys so that we have time to get through this session. But if you want to see the full interviews, videos, just go to our YouTube channel later this week and they'll be posted there.
Cool. All right. Well, let's resume share.
All right, everyone. I'm here with Jennifer Cyphers from Pinwheel, and we are continuing on with our 2-minute drills. And Jennifer is going to serve as our tour technology expert. I think Pinwheel delivers, I know it does, both on-site, but then also has added self-guided tours into the equation. So love having Jennifer on and give her a chance to talk briefly just about her company a little bit, and then we'll jump into some of the questions.
Great. So hi, everybody. Like Reid said, I'm the founder and CEO of Pinwheel. We have 3 real products. We have Pinwheel Self-Tour, which is the mobile application which guides prospects through the property. We have our touchscreen application that's on screens like that. And then we have maps that can be embedded into property websites.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to jump all around. There's no rhyme or reason. So Jennifer was slightly prepared for this, but not totally. And we'll see how it goes. Let me jump in right now. I'm going to start with COVID. I can't help it. I feel like that's still obvious on everybody's minds. How has it accelerated or slowed tour tech adoption?
It had a huge and crazy impact, an immediate impact on our company. First, like a lot of companies, everything kind of slammed to a halt. Leasing offices closed. Nobody knew what to do next. But there had been a lot of interest in our self-tour application, and then that interest in the self-tour application just skyrocketed. So it has been a great accelerator for self-tour.
Awesome. So great accelerator, but what would you say is still kind of the biggest impediment or hurdle with adoption when it comes to with tour technology?
One of the biggest problems is that most properties have fob access around the property. And so trying to get prospective residents through doors that are locked and you can only open them with a fob has been challenging. So we're actually working on integrating some new technology that will allow temporary visitors to use their phone as a temporary fob to get through those doors. But that has been an interesting challenge.
Yeah, no doubt. And what percentage would you say right now has adopted tour tech?
I would say it's still very low. I think we brought on like 120 properties in the space of a month or a month and a half, which is a huge adoption to happen in that short of a space of time. But compared to the whole market, it's just a tiny percentage.
And what do you think the outlook is like fast forward 5 years from now? Do you see it like rapidly accelerating, or do you think that it's going to be kind of these small increments?
I think that self-tour technology is going to rapidly accelerate over the next few years. I think that the prospects have wanted it long before the industry wanted it. And now that the industry is kind of getting on board with the idea, because of our current circumstances, I think that it's just going to become an expectation among prospects pretty shortly in the near future.
All right, so we'll stop there with Jennifer. There's quite a bit more, obviously, that you guys can check out on the YouTube channel, as Reid said later on. I'd be curious if you guys could drop in the chat if you agree with Jennifer. I was surprised when she said they brought on 120 property in 6 weeks, but I don't know if you guys felt the same way from some of your portfolios. So yeah, drop that in the chat and see if you guys wouldn't mind. I'd be curious to see. Anything else from your conversation you want to highlight?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. All right, so we'll go on to the next one. So our next 2-minute video with Reid is Lisa Odell from Bucking Horse Apartments. She's our property manager expert. Any setup here, Reid? Because I think in this video you just get to rather quickly.
Yeah, well, Lisa's local here. She's been in the industry. She's definitely a lifer. I think it's been 25 years. She's held a lot of different positions, but her passion's always been at the community. So she's just a wonderful resource for us. And yeah, I think you can tee it up.
All right. Just making sure I get this right.
We are here with Lisa Odell, who is our property management expert, as we go around and do our 2-minute drills for the state of the industry. And I'm going to confess or just prepare everybody up front. This very well could go past 2 minutes, but we'll just try and keep it short. But we want to get through a lot of these questions, and very appreciative that Lisa is joining us here today. And I'm going to let her do a quick self-intro and give you a little bit of a background on herself.
Hi, my name is Lisa Odell. I've been in the industry for longer than I'm willing to admit. I'm going to say more than 2 decades. I have a background in marketing, operations, training, recruiting, and consulting for the industry. And I'm here to give my opinion, which I love to do.
Awesome. All right, well, let's jump right in. What are the 3 most important skill sets today, and from your perspective, that a property manager needs to be successful? And I will say in this environment, but you don't have to take that carrot as far as COVID. But I'm just curious, in 2020, what are the 3 skill sets you think are most important to be successful as a property manager?
I'm going to say flexible, always, number 1, flexible. I was going to say flexible for all 3 of those top skill sets, but I'm going to add in, according to what's going on these days, also compassionate and creative. And of course, we have to be flexible. That's the industry we're in. Compassion is something that we have to practice a little bit more right now than usual, but really all the time it's something that should be top of mind when we're making decisions and policies and procedures, and combining that compassion with the needs of our business. And I think the other one, kind of goes along the same lines.
Cool. So that you mentioned, especially in this time, compassion is super important. So how disruptive, scale 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, has COVID been as far as a disruption for you and what you imagine for other property managers?
I think my first instinct was to say 4 or 5, but when I really think about it and the long history that I've had in this business and all the different things that happen to us on a day-to-day basis, and that flexibility factor that we always need to keep in mind, I'm really just going to say 3. I'm going to say this is something that's created some change for us, something that's created some challenge for us, something that's caused us to need to be creative and flexible. But it's just another thing. It's life, and that's what we deal with in our industry is life and all of the ups and downs and bumps and bruises that come with it. So yeah, I think this is manageable for us.
So I'll say, I saw Reid asked the question of how property managers adjusted or how have they. I will say I've been really surprised, and I don't. Reid does this because when we started the company, I had told Reid, I was like, I wish we could just hire robots. Like, at least the robot does the right thing that you ask it to all the time. Because I was so scared of the humans. Now I've come to really enjoy the humans that we've hired. But I'm saying this because I've talked to a couple of corporate property management companies, and they've talked about how they've rolled out videos to requiring each of their property managers to either adopt Zoom or FaceTime or quickly record videos of each floor plan, and how they've been able to roll that out across 40, 50, or 60 properties. And I would frankly be terrified of that if I had been in your guys' shoes trying to organize that. So similar to how I told a few people that I woke up 4 times last night having nightmares that Reid was going to bail on me during this session. I would have had the same experience if I was, Sarah Montori or Tanya or David or something and trying to roll out these requirements to film these videos.
Yeah, what you didn't hear, but you'll see if you watch the full videos, I followed up with her after I'd spoken with Jennifer just about self-guided tours, how she was receiving it. And she's very positive person. Not that you shouldn't be about self-guided tours, but she was like, I think it's good for the industry. She sees it just another avenue for them to close, meaning bring in another resident. But she did, she felt very strongly that community managers were still going to be relevant 5 years from now. And not, you would expect anything otherwise, but just that it's still very much about people, the relationship they build even in a short amount of time with the prospects. So I thought that was fascinating, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So, one of my favorite movies, I don't know if you know this, but is A Muppet's Christmas Carol. Do you know this movie with Kermit?
It is. We're not even an hour in. We're talking about Muppets.
I'm just saying, because the way I feel like sometimes I interact with you, I'm like the rat in that movie, and you're like Gonzo. So you're Charles Dickens, and I'm like, if you guys don't know, you got to go watch the Muppets. Anyways, all right. So our next expert, we're going to talk to a little bit different format. So we asked a couple experts to send. Thank you, Marcia. The next expert is Robert from BetterBot. So we asked him to send in a quick video on what he sees is happening in the industry when it comes to chatbots and where he thinks it's going next. So let me get him primed.
Hey everyone, I hope your week is going well. I'm Robert Turnbull with BetterBot, and a big thank you to our friends at Digible for asking us to chime in on a specific trend that seems to be getting a lot of attention this year, specifically bot and AI technology, which I'll just call automation technology. So I've been in multifamily for more than 20 years, and I've seen a lot of tech trends come and go. What I appreciate about automation technology is that it's the first technology that is actually freeing up our hardworking leasing professionals to be humans again. And there are really two different perspectives. On the one hand, you have consumers that want real-time, accurate conversations. They want control over the leasing process 24/7, 365, and easy access to information, not frustrating lead forms. Multifamily marketers, on the other hand, still see up to 50% of their leads unresponded to. Operations folks face a 34% attrition rate, which is higher than retail, by the way. And technology seems to be adding cost and taking up more of the leasing agent's time. So in short, automation technology gives the experience renters are looking for, speeds up the leasing cycle, focuses on conversations, not just leads, and frees up leasing professionals for menial, repetitive, low-reward leasing tasks. So let me give you some examples as to how bots and automation technology is helping. The average bot greets 3,000 prospective renters per property per month, has conversations with about 200 unique renters, answering hundreds of questions, generating on average 13 appointments per property per month. That's a 90% appointment show rate as well. That's just 90% of those scheduling appointments are showing up. In short, bots are doing a lot of the conversational heavy lifting and plays a role in about 4 leases per property per month. If you do the math, bot technology saves leasing professionals an average of 80 hours a month. Works 24/7, 365, which comes out to 13 cents an hour, $3.30 a day. I'd say that's a pretty good deal. Something else that bots can do, they can live in the digital world. Think of the old Willy Wonka movie. Remember when Mike TV gets shrunk down like the giant chocolate bars? Well, bots are kind of like that. They're essentially leasing agents that get shrunk down and meet your prospective renters anywhere in the digital landscape. Might be your property website, Facebook, Instagram, Google My Business, Twitter, Pinterest. Wherever renters can find you in the digital world, bots are in effect your digital leasing agent. And have you noticed lately property websites are starting to look like Las Vegas? There are all these widgets now on property websites flying in, prompting prospects to text, email, look at specials, talk to a renter, nudge campaigns that take up a third of your homepage, and the list goes on. Bots can clean up your website and put all of that in one place, the bot on your website. I like to think of it as social distancing for your widgets. And finally, I often get asked, where do I see bot and automation technology going? Well, many bots are already bilingual, can speak multiple languages, can embed virtual tours and videos in the bot experience, which is especially great when the bot is appearing somewhere other than your website, such as Yelp or Google. There are even bots that can help with student housing, affordable housing, with list management, and of course, current resident requests. That being said, I see automation technology really helping to respond to and answer the hundreds of web leads coming in from marketing sources like ILSs. essentially separating the tire kickers from the real prospects and passing the good stuff along to your leasing pros. So look, there's so much more we can talk about, but that's my 2 minutes. I'll hand it back to our friends at Digible, and have a great weekend and week, everyone.
So I really, I thought Robert did a really nice job. I think there's obviously a lot of competitors when it comes to the chatbot space. And I think there's a lot of great offerings. I just wanted to highlight one point that he made, which was the Las Vegas. And I'm just bringing this up because I'm sure all the marketers in the call have felt it. But even I noticed sometime last week that RealPage now has an ADA widget that can help if someone comes to your website, if they're colorblind or whatever, navigate the website. Have you seen that widget on the RealPage website?
Yeah.
It's like, but oftentimes that widget now conflicts with whatever widget you guys already have on there, right? So if you have a chatbot widget, it's actually covering half of it up. So, and then obviously you sometimes might have perk as well, or some other offerings, and so it can be a lot. So it's just something to consider. And I definitely agree with Robert. I mean, there's still going to be a couple of years of this where it's figuring things out, and there's a lot of specialists in these. But I think you're going to start seeing a lot of consolidations of these widgets, so that you have a more all-encompassing experience, not just for the website, but also the whole customer journey. Because obviously that, as I saw someone in the chat saying about requiring email gates and stuff, like the point of the chatbot is to make it easier, right, to engage. But if you have if you put a certain gate there, it can also make it harder for someone to engage with the property.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, our next guest we have is actually Ian from Power Pro. So some of you folks may know him, but we chose to reach out to him and his team to do a 2-minute video on where they see lead management systems today and where they see lead management systems going. And I know they've also done a lot of work of how much can you start integrating the entire customer journey process. But anyways, he'll give us his quick thoughts on that, and if he sees anything changing. So make that live.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ian Andrews, a co-founder of Power Pro Leasing. Today, I'm going to be giving a quick update around technology in the CRM and lead management space. So over the last few years, the focus in lead management has really been on organizing leasing agents to conduct and prioritize follow-up. These systems are all based on information that the prospect has submitted to the properties or that the leasing agent has collected. Well, all that's starting to change. Now, a number of different AI-driven solutions have hit the market and are already proving to be way more effective at delivering handwritten communication, whether by text or email, to your prospect. It gives your prospects a way to get the information that they want, when they want, and it's still customized in a way that it actually creates rapport between the AI agent and the prospect. Now, the other side of things is how we're actually collecting information. Traditionally, we rely on our systems like our websites and things for information to be submitted to the prospect or submitted by the prospect to the property. Well, things are changing on that front too, where we're able to deliver this customized experience to your prospect and can actually look and see how they're interacting, what floor plans they're viewing, what videos they're seeing, which apartments they like the most, simply by looking at their usage, and relay this information back to the AI systems as well as to the leasing agent and on-site team. So they're able to use this information to see exactly what the prospect is looking for, contact them when they want to be contacted, and already have all that information in hand and ready to go. So when I look at what's changing in lead management, it is using things like AI and data from your prospect to really be able to deliver them the information that they want, the way they want, and when they want it.
Did you guys like that fade out at the end? Thought that was fancy of Ian. Better than I could have done. Although I will say, Reid sent me his videos last night, and he was like, here are my videos for the summit. Now I gotta pick on you. And I was just gonna like start playing them, but I was like, oh, let me watch these first. And the first 8 minutes for you and Jennifer, like just chit-chatting about, I don't know what you're chatting about. It's like, I gotta figure out how to cut this out.
Just trying to loosen her up, you know, that's what a good director does, right?
That's true. Yeah, you get the most out of your subject. All right, so now that we've done our expert videos, we've got a couple slides that we want to go through for you guys when it comes to just marketing state of the industry. But first, Reid, you have a little bit, a little bit more fun.
Yeah, for those that weren't there from the beginning with us, I see not at Folio from Shelley, that's classic. We launched a comic strip, I think about 3 months ago. And so we're just dropping a couple of these in as we go through the day just to keep things light. This one might be a little bit harder to read, so I guess I'll read it for you guys. I think that's the marketing director or leasing agent, marketing director. Did you see our new TikTok for self-guided tours? So pretty on point, right? No, sorry, I've been kind of busy. Cameron's the property manager. Check it out, it only takes 30 seconds. Oh my God, says Cameron, awesome, you know, says Marissa, and she says, no, it's my 65-year-old mother just posted a TikTok about the benefits of practicing Kama Sutra during a pandemic. Hopefully we got some smiles from you guys. It's hard when you're not all in person, but anyways, that's our TikTok comic strip. Let's move on.
All right, just doing this.
Looks like we are seeing a little bit more on the LMS. I was wondering if you're going to see the board light up on chat there, because I know talking to you guys that you have some pretty strong opinions about these. It's funny, I see Erica talking about Knox. Several people have mentioned it. We heard, I think it was from Blanton, saying that it's been a game changer for them. But I remember, Erica, I don't know if you do, when we were in Tennessee for your annual leadership conference, I think it was a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, but just heard a lot of groans about Yardi and Knock being compatible, and just some of the challenges that they face there. So, I mean, that's kind of the norm, right, with integrations.
I think it's gotten a lot stronger.
That's what I was going to ask. Has that improved? And Erica, I don't know if you want to answer that directly, but has the relationship, if you will, between Yardi and Knock improved for those that have that suite on their properties?
Yeah, I think that they've worked out most of the kinks. I mean, like you said, with any kind of integration like that, there are going to be some pain points along the way. But I would say by and large, they've worked out the problems that we were having.
Well, that's great to hear. I want to say that we, on more the digital marketing side, when it came to tracking conversions, had some challenges with Portico done. You know, if I have that right. I think Ray Ann's on too, but just getting, I mean, we don't have to belabor the point, but just getting all of the data to sync so that you can really make sense out of it is definitely one of the bigger challenges that we're facing, but glad to hear that we're seeing some progress with Knock. So here we're just highlighting, this is more of our marketing deep dive, if you will, in state and industry, our sweet spot. But I just wanted to share a few of the headlines from 2020 so far, in no order. But CoStar, it's been really, I guess interesting. When Dave and I first saw this, all we could do was talk about it, I think, for like 3 days straight. But then we didn't hear much, almost at all, about it since then, including from our clients. So curious, feel free to drop some comments into chat if you guys have experienced much more, heard much more about this acquisition, how it's going to affect you guys. Just there hasn't been a lot of press on it since it first came out. And then Knock continues to raise a bunch of money. They're in the Series B, and I think it's still led by Madrona as they bring in the capital. And then Lease Labs, they announced Flex Demand Optimizer. I don't know how many of you guys are working with Lease Labs or familiar with this, but similar, I don't mind saying, to Fiona. It's kind of a budget planner. A lot of differences, as you can imagine. We're passionate about laying those out, but we'll save that for another day. But they did bring that to market this year. And then G5 announced their partnership with BetterBot. I think it's just openly, frankly, a white label G5 bot, but they're using the technology that Robert talked about. And we too are working out a deal with Robert. And then Nestio, if you guys know them, they rebranded themselves as Funnel Leasing. I think we saw them coming out pretty big in pink, which we didn't appreciate at OpTech last year.
No one wears it like you.
Yeah, no one wears it like me. Okay, thank you, David. W Promote, they launched the Ad Creative Bank, and so this is just more dynamic, which we've been talking a lot about. I think it's pretty cool. They're using it not just for multifamily, but that you can get kind of dynamic, fresh creative according to your inventory and a variety of things like in real time, so that you're making sure you're promoting the right things. And then Zumper raised 60 million on did you know this, on Series D?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so they're up to 150 million. They are not going away, and I think last I heard they're actually adjusting some things on their cost model. The other thing I did catch on Zumper was that they are being accused of discrimination against protected classes, that their algorithm was deliberately discriminating against folks that wouldn't be as qualified. And I don't know if that was in response. Looks like Sarah's asking who uses Zumper. To the fact that a lot of folks who had used Zumper quickly were enamored, I guess, with the cost model of like, hey, it's just $5-10 a lead. But then they weren't too happy with the quality of the leads. And so it sounds like Zumper may have overcompensated for that and got themselves in a little bit of trouble. I think that's on the real deal. If you want to research it, I'll try and drop the link in there if you want to know a little bit more about what's going on with Zumper. And then for us, save the best for last, we have launched ILX, as we're calling it. I'll claim that brilliant idea. David's giving me a hard time about it. What does the X stand for, Reid? I gotta know. But that's just ILS management. So while there has been a ton of consolidation in the industry, through all the M&A, we found from our clients that there's still just a lot of aggravation, frustration dealing with the contracts, managing all of those, and then having the best strategy. And then things like site or listing audits, making sure that the creative is fresh, that you're promoting the right things, can be a real challenge. And then also, what is the data really telling you? And then how is that connecting to your digital marketing data? So we've heard a lot about, in particular, CoStar, but I think it's Rick Cafe, trying to do some things out of, I don't want to say out of their wheelhouse, but that they're, some of these ILSs are now offering paid search, paid social, they're really expanding. And so it just seems to me natural that you'd see digital marketing agencies like Digible, G5, we'll see if this trend does start to pick up, but we start offering this as a service to our clients because we think it makes a lot of sense to have all the data in one spot.
It's still early stages for us. I think there's some stuff we feel super confident about when it comes to it, and then there's certain things that obviously just going to take a lot of repetition to get down, but I'm excited about what the roadmap looks like.
Yeah.
All right, so Reid, I know to keep us on track to still do a breakout, we have to hustle through these slides. I think Carrie was giving us 8 minutes. So.
All right, 8 minutes.
So some of these slides are super data heavy, and they could take, you will have access to this deck afterwards, so you can review it at your leisure. And if you want, you can definitely schedule some time with us for a follow-up. Some of the Minneapolis folks have seen some similar slides with this last week when we did something for that market, but there's a few new things in here too, and this is talking at a national average. So we'll fly through these, and again, you guys can review the slides afterwards with a fine-tooth comb. But this first one is just leasing trends, and this is basically how absorption rate is doing. And you can see that as things, they're not trending in the best of directions. Actually, we switched this. This isn't absorption rate anymore. This is available units. So actually, this is trending in a good direction. So right after COVID, a lot more units were available, but now there's a lot fewer units available. And you can see, like, by state, the lowest available units is Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and that's Virginia, right? VA.
Yeah.
I always like pick up on that one.
What else would it be?
I don't know, but it just shouldn't it be like VI? Where's the A? I know someone who
Go here. That's 6 minutes.
Oh, that's right. All right, so we'll move on to the next slide. So this is, are there differences in leasing trends by high COVID markets versus low COVID markets? And at first there were, like with New York, wasn't having very good at all. In fact, a lot of people were moving out of New York. But you'll see as time has gone on, there's not really as big of a split anymore. A lot of the markets are pretty even with one another when it comes to absorption rate. So it doesn't seem to matter as much anymore about high versus low COVID states, except for the outlier being New York. So let's talk a little bit about the marketing impact of this. So this graph here is search volume over time. And so we're looking at higher is better, meaning there's more demand for a certain keyword over time. And you'll see this apartments for rent is this green line. And right after COVID, there was a massive impact where there wasn't a lot of demand. People weren't searching for apartments, but over time it has gotten better and actually normalized in last year's numbers, which is the blue line. So you'll see kind of since August, things have been pretty similar with one another. In fact, you'll see a little bit of a delayed impact here where this year through August, through the beginning through mid-August, it was actually better this year against last year. And then right now it's about even, but it's not a terrible story. And of course, you'll see COVID searches versus unemployment. It's unfortunate. We wish unemployment was dropping faster than it is, but it's just taking a little bit longer to recover it. Then this is search volume against types of bedrooms. So we were talking about this with the Minneapolis folks last week, but we wanted to show are there differences in how luxury apartments are getting searched for now. So this is the orange line. So luxury apartments have actually recovered quite a bit versus 3-bedroom apartments. You'll see that those went almost right after COVID. It was really bad news for 3 bedrooms, but through the summer, they actually spiked quite a bit. And then you'll see 2 bedrooms and studio apartments. So the 2 bedrooms and studio apartments are a little bit higher than 3 bedrooms. But I'll just say overall, I'm surprised at how closely related 3 bedrooms are to studios in 1 bedroom or in 2 bedrooms, because typically those are quite a bit higher demand than 3 bedrooms. So this sort of reinforces that roommate situation that some folks have been experiencing, where people are downsizing from their studio or 1 bedroom, or not downsizing, but more of getting a roommate and moving out of it. And I think even in our company, I think we've seen 4 people that have moved from studio or 1 bedrooms into a roommate situation.
Yeah.
All right, so how does all of this impact campaign performance? So this is cost per click across the country. You'll see there was a time at the beginning of COVID where we spiked where cost per click for search traffic was really expensive, but over time it came and normalized more similar to last year. However, unfortunately, as demand, as demand, meaning more units coming online, searches being a little bit worse than last year, and then in particular, the ILS is really picking up their advertising. You can see cost per click around the country has jumped, and it's 11% year over year, so it could certainly be worse. But this is just one more death by 1,000 cuts, right? As we were talking about concessions, changing, like rent payments being, a couple points off, and then you have your cost going up 11%. It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, I think it also speaks to just competition at large, right? As you see that cost per click go up with the new construction, but also people fighting tooth and nail to try and keep their occupancy up, that you're going to see cost per click continue to increase, which could then also end up making your cost per lead increase.
Yeah. So, I'll move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So this is lower funnel page views. So last year, we noticed there was a lot of engagement on the website, but a lot of times there's more tire kicker people on the website. And there was a time during COVID where last year and this year were very similar. But mostly what we wanted to try to get down to was, is website engagement more high quality engagement versus tire kicker type of engagement? You'll see here floor plan engagement had a dip at the beginning of COVID, but then and since has been up 6% post-COVID over prior year. So this is what this orange line is. This is a really good thing. This is basically saying instead of people coming to the website, looking at a couple gallery images and exiting, they're coming to the website and they're going to more of those higher converting pages like the floor plan page. And this data here you'll see is on over 1,000 properties. So this is a considerable amount of traffic that we were able to look at. But overall, this is a really good story. So yes, clicks are more expensive, but when people get to the website, they're more likely in a buying mode than they were last year. And then this is cost per lead this year versus last year. and you'll see actually cost per lead has gotten significantly better this year versus last year. So it has decreased at a steady rate year over year, which is usually, happens in the summer season anyways. But when clicks are more expensive, you can be worried. Normally you would be worried that maybe your marketing campaign's not being as effective. But you'll actually see here that cost per lead, and this is over a considerable amount of accounts. I think we have like 700 accounts that we pulled to look at this, but it's just significantly better this year versus last year. So now, Reid, you always push our team on, are you winning because it's a seasonal win and you're taking credit for it, or are you winning because you're actually winning?
Yeah, you got to kind of normalize things, but this is encouraging. Obviously, this is across all those 700 properties, so certainly it can feel different or look different in other markets. But I think we talked about this early in COVID, that those that are shopping are pretty motivated, we've seen that, I guess, vary a little bit, where it felt like there was more tire kickers, but this lets you know, obviously, I won't say things are back to normal by any stretch, but just that there's some very motivated renters out there. And therefore, to me, that's a big part of why you're seeing lower cost per leads.
Okay, I know we're kind of against time, so let's see what we can get to. So this is actually going to be a tee-up slide for the next session, which is going to be call analytics. So this is saying that despite a 10% decrease in call volume over the last month, missed call rates have increased by 5%. And over the last 30 days, we looked at more than 1,500 calls and 15,000 calls, and less than 1% of those referenced COVID. So this is more of like what we had seen right after COVID hit, was that call volume actually had increased year over year. I don't have year over year data for this slide, but this is just more interesting that we're actually still seeing an increase in call volume through the summer months, which is just reinforcing what we just talked about. But that with more calls, we're actually still seeing more missed calls, which I've been a little bit surprised about, frankly, because with folks not being able to actually tour people in the building, they're doing more virtual tours or people are watching videos. I figured that more leasing agents would be present at their station, that they could take any call that came. But we've still seen a slight increase in the amount of missed calls. And then it's just not a very big part of the conversation, anybody mentioning COVID, coronavirus, or anything like that. So it seems like people kind of, it's part of everyday life now, and they don't need to talk about it. Yeah. All right, Nicole, if you're around, you want to hit your marketing strategy slide?
Yeah, I'll hit this super quick. Overall, we were looking at the marketing funnel, so upper funnel, mid funnel, and lower funnel metrics. So display, Spotify native, social, you can see there, pre-COVID and then post-COVID. Post-COVID, obviously, we're not out of COVID, but just a 6-month average. And what we basically saw was that you can see the upper funnel metrics in terms of click-through rate. We did see a slight jump there, decrease in the mid-funnel metrics, and then an increase in the upper funnel. So no doubt that COVID had a major impact here, but when you look at this, this is very in line with what we would expect from a seasonality perspective. So just thought that was interesting that it kind of lined up with what we were expecting to see for seasonality.
Cool. And then this is a quick, how has COVID impacted reviews? So this is year over year data, January through September, and January through September again. And you'll see positive reviews are down 36%, and neutral reviews are 52%, negative reviews 51%. So basically, the main takeaway here is people are still reviewing properties, but they're, I guess, more judgmental. Or something of that nature. Like if you do a good job, I would definitely encourage your leasing team to say, hey, please leave us a positive review. But if there's anything that's a little bit amiss, like if your property doesn't, when someone's touring, it doesn't feel quite as clean as another property, or the agent had some sort of social distancing, stood a little too close to somebody now, they're way more likely to leave a negative review, or for it to at least not be a positive review. So just something for you guys to be aware of.
Yeah, I just think that the overall climate right now, there's a lot of unhappy people, be it employment, be it cabin fever, the isolation, and they also have more time on their hands. So you're going to see potentially more reviews, but also probably a lot more critical. And therefore, it's super important to stay on top of that. Stay close to it, be proactive, make sure you're responding as soon as you see those, because that can get away from you before you know it. And we mentioned this before, but when people are looking at the average rating of properties, you're typically looking at a 3.7 to 4.2 for for just an easy range to look at. When you start getting closer to like low 3s, it really makes a difference as far as your conversion rates. So you just don't want to let this, I guess, trend sneak up on you and then suddenly find out that your conversion rates dropped by, 2-3x.
That's a good point. All right, so Reid, you want to, actually we'll save that. Let's move into our breakout session first, and then we'll hit that. So we're gonna have a quick 10-minute breakout session. I think Carrie, you just texted me on it, but this will just be for you guys to quickly get together and talk about the things that you were most surprised by, or any other, like, if you want to talk about Stumper or any of those other things that you started to mention in the chat. So this will be a quick, small group.